Good morning, everybody. This is Modern Refugee. Just kind of wanted to show you guys my kitchen here. As you can see, I don't have a very big kitchen. That's pretty much my kitchen. What you see there in the screen, that's what I've been working with for years. And I'm kind of doing this video to kind of give some ideas to some folks who maybe live in town or live in the city or only have an apartment. I just kind of wanted to let them know, you don't have to have a big farmstead or homestead or massive kitchen to make some pretty cool stuff. So I'm going to do a little canning today, and it's definitely not canning season. It's the end of March. But I'm going to show some ways maybe folks can can stuff with stuff they can just get at their local produce store this time of year with some frozen, kind of some improvised material. I'm also going to improvise my hot water bath canner. But anyway, I'm going to walk you guys through all this here. I'm going to show you kind of up close the different things that I'm going to be using, and then I'm going to explain my recipe as I'm going along. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to show you guys this. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to have a massive kitchen to make some pretty decent stuff and to preserve some stuff for you and your family. So anyway, I'm going to show you this stuff up close here and kind of walk you through it. Well, these are the ingredients that I'm going to use today. I'm going to make what I call corn salsa. And it's not really a salsa because there's no tomatoes in it. It's more of a relish. It's kind of my adaptation of a corn relish recipe that I found in an old Kerr canning book, and I kind of mixed it up with a little bit of Southwest seasoning instead of the normal pickling spices that are put in that. And I'm going to do it with some frozen corn. Now, of course, in the height of summer, you can certainly make this with corn on the cob. You could, blanch your cobs and you could cut the corn off and do it that way. But I'm kind of doing this for folks who might live in the city or might not have access to their own garden or some type of massive produce stand or something. The ingredients that I got here are basically stuff you can find in any supermarket anywhere in the United States, at least right now anyway. And the onions are actually onions that I grew last summer. These were harvested in August and September last year. And I actually store them in buckets down in the basement. And I actually did a video on the buckets. And the video kind of shows you how you can store stuff down in your basement, root vegetables like onions and potatoes. But it's getting to be time to use them up. So I got a few left. So this is one of the ways I'm going to use them up. Of course, the peppers, I bought them at the local supermarket. I paid like $1.50 for the red bell pepper. I think I paid 60 cents for the green one, and that was 60 cents worth of jalapenos there. And I paid, I think, $1.94 for the frozen corn a bag. So that's kind of the ingredients that I'm going to use here today. I just kind of show you my stuff. I got my canning jars here. I got them all washed and cleaned up and getting ready to start. I want to mention a couple of things here. I got these canning lids here from Walmart. I heard I've had people tell me that these aren't any good, but I haven't had any failures with these canning lids, and they're made in the United States, so the supply line's a little closer than anything that would be made in China or whatnot. So, and I'm going to kind of mention that a lot of stuff, is brought in nowadays. I try to keep stuff as close to home as possible. Like this sugar here. This sugar's made locally here in Michigan. I'm in Michigan. So the supply line's a little closer for me on this than some stuff that's brought in from thousands and thousands of miles, like a cane sugar. So I'm just going to try to concentrate. When I do stuff, I try to concentrate on stuff that I can get locally. So, here I got sugar that was produced locally. I got made in the USA canning lids and canning jars, and I got some onions that I grew. So now a percentage of this here, of what I'm making today, this is a little bit more local than some of the other stuff. But a couple ingredients that I want to talk to you about real quick here. Sugar, I kind of already talked about. It lasts forever. Everybody should keep some sugar. Everybody should keep a couple gallons of white vinegar around, and everybody should have some salt around. Now, this is kosher salt. Whenever you're going to do any type of canning, you don't want to use iodized salt. You want to use a non-iodized salt. If you use iodized salt in your canning, it's going to kind of turn your product brown after a while. So you don't want that. You want kind of something that looks decent, so people want to eat it, of course. But anyway, just kind of my take there on some of the ingredients that I keep around. Sugar, vinegar, and salt are kind of very important for preserving food. If I got those three ingredients and I got a whole ton of cucumbers that are coming in my garden, and something happens where the grocery store doesn't have anything, and I got a couple gallons of vinegar and I got a you know, a few pounds of sugar and a couple pounds of non-iodized salt, I can make a relish out of that, and I can preserve my harvest a little bit. It's kind of the same thing if you can get a hold of some fresh stuff and you've got a few things at your house. You know, you got some canning lids and stuff. You can make something with that. You can go ahead and preserve that stuff, even in a small kitchen here like mine. But like I said, some of this stuff is improvised, like this right here. This is my improvised hot water bath canner. This isn't a canner. All it is a little bit of a rack inside of a big stock pot. And most folks got a stock pot in their kitchen, and they got, you know, big old pot that they use to cook pasta or something. This is absolutely perfect for making a small batch of relish, what I'm doing today here. But anyway, you don't have to have a big old canner necessarily to hot water bath something. And because this relish and most relishes have sugar and vinegar in it, they don't have to be pressure canned. You can just hot water bath them, which is a lot quicker and easier than a normal, like if you were canning something that didn't have a lot of acidity in. Like if you wanted to can just this corn by itself, you'd have to pressure can that because it doesn't have any acidity or any sugar in it. And the vinegar and the sugar in the pickle, so to speak, will help preserve low acid foods. So that's kind of my what I know about canning here, what I've been taught. So anyway, just kind of wanted to show you guys this year I'm going to start cutting this stuff up and making this corn salsa. But just wanted to go over a few things like that with everybody. Kind of concerned about the what's going on in Nebraska right now with the flooding out there. I think that's going to really have an effect on our food prices, especially in a few months. So this summer here, I'm going to try to get as much out of my garden as I possibly can, and I'm going to try to preserve as much as I possibly can as well. I normally do anyway, but I'm going to put a little bit more emphasis on it this year, just because I can almost guarantee you at best we're just going to get some raised food prices out of it. So this is just some ideas that, like I said, people that live in the city or live in an apartment, have a really small kitchen, just some ideas that they can use to maybe help preserve some food. So they got some decent stuff put up in case something goes sideways. But anyway, I'm going to start cutting this stuff up here. I'm going to stop along the way and show you a couple different things as I can this stuff. Just something I want to mention here while I'm cutting up my pepper. Now, just because you got your pepper at the grocery store doesn't necessarily mean that the seeds are no good in them. Now, there are some stuff that are hybrided or GMO'd that won't reproduce a second year, but I've had pretty good luck with peppers. You can actually, if you really want to be frugal, you can actually save the seeds out of your pepper that you bought at the store and try to grow them. But like I said, with store-bought peppers, I've had fairly decent luck with them, both bell peppers and jalapenos. So just because you bought it at the store doesn't necessarily mean that those seeds won't grow for you and produce something. So if you really want to be frugal, or if it's really a tight spot, I would definitely save these seeds and see if you can get something to grow out of them. Like I said, there is a chance that it might not grow, but you know, if you're in a tight spot and you don't have any other seeds, that's another resource. How many of these seeds out of peppers get thrown away every day because people think that they're just garbage, but they're actually not. So anyway, kind of keep that in mind in the back of your head. Just another way you can save stuff in a bad situation and maybe make it work for you. All right, here are all my vegetables in the pot. I got all my onions and peppers cut up. This is about 10 cups of corn. Like I said, I use frozen corn for this. You can certainly use fresh corn in the summertime. And I use about 4 cups of cut up peppers. I use red bell peppers, green bell peppers, and jalapenos to equal the 4 cups. You can use any kind of pepper you like. If you like it hotter, you can use like a serrano or something like that. You can certainly use all green peppers. If you couldn't find red or orange or yellow peppers, you could, like I said, certainly use all green. Doesn't matter. I just like the red for the color because it makes it look decent. You could use all red or yellow peppers for this too. It would work just as well. And I also got in here 2 cups of cut up onions, and like I said, they were onions that I grew. I added 4 cups of white vinegar, 5% acidity, and I also added a cup of water, and I added about 2.5 cups of sugar into this. So that's kind of what's in the pot right here. And now I'm going to add my seasonings. Now this is my seasonings. I'm going to put in about a tablespoon and a half of kosher salt, about a tablespoon and a half of ground cumin, and 3 tablespoons of mustard seed. And this is kind of my ingredients for my seasoning that I'm going to add into this. I'm going to stir that in good, and then I'm going to bring this up to a boil. Now, if you were making like a pickle relish or something, you would be using celery seed and turmeric along with the mustard seed and the salt for your seasoning on this. But because I want this to be a little bit southwest, that's why I'm adding the cumin in this with the mustard seed. You could also certainly use coriander too. Coriander is the ground seeds of the cilantro plant, so you can, if you'd want to add a little teaspoon of coriander into this too, you can certainly do that. You can experiment a little bit with your seasonings. I always do, because sometimes you might not have the seasonings that you want to have, so you might have to find other combinations. So it's kind of another one of my theories. Always find alternates for the stuff that you got. You know, if you're cooking stuff, try some different ingredients from time to time, because you never know, you might find something fairly decent with something that you didn't think would go with it. You just got to kind of try stuff. So anyway, get out there, try the stuff in your recipes. You never know, you might find something. But anyway, I'm going to bring this up to a boil here, and then I'm going to show you how I fill this into the cans so I can hot water bath it and preserve this stuff. Just kind of another way to show you how to use, like I said, frozen and stuff out of the produce section at the grocery store. And you're gonna, when we're all done, we're gonna have some shelf-stable corn salsa that we can put up with the rest of our shelf-stable food. Okay, here's my corn salsa. I got it up to a boil now. I wanted to make sure it was boiling good before I started my timer, because that corn was frozen that I began with. So now this is going to boil for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to pack this into my jars, and then I'm going to seal them up for the hot water bath. Just going to want to stir it every once in a while, but want to kind of keep this boiling, so got plenty of heat in here so my pickle turns out. Another important thing here with canning, now that I got my corn salsa boiling there, I want to get my lids up and going. So basically what you do is you take your canning lids and you put them in a pot, you cover them with water, and you bring that up to a boil, and you're going to let that boil for a couple of minutes. That's going to sterilize your lids, and that's going to soften up the compound on the lid so you get a really good seal. So this is kind of a really important step in canning. You always want to make sure that your lids are piping hot when you put them onto your jars. So anyway, this is kind of what this looks like here, and these are the lids I'm going to use when I fill my jars up. So here's my corn salsa packed into my jars. I left a little bit of headspace there. I'd say that's a good 3/4 of an inch of headspace in these jars. I got them on a pan so I don't get stuff all over when I went to fill these jars up. Now, this is kind of an important step when you're canning. You want to take a wet paper towel and you want to wipe this top edge here off, and you want to wipe the threads off, kind of showing you here with one hand. Normally I'd be doing this with 2 hands, but anyway, you want to wipe that top edge off, and you want to wipe the threads off, and then you're going to put your hot canning lid on, like I got right here. You're going to want to put that on these jars, and you want to tighten them down, and then they'll be ready to hot water bath. So I'm going to get these all set here and get them in the hot water bath and show you what that looks like. Now here's my jars. Got the lids all on, got the rims tightened down after I wiped the top edges and the threads down really good on the jars. Now I'm going to put enough water in here to just cover these. And when the cans are just covered, just like that, they're all covered with water. You can kind of see that there. Now I'm going to turn this on and bring this up to a boil. And when this starts boiling, I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes, and that's going to be my 15-minute hot water bath. Just kind of wanted to show you this here. You don't need a canner. You can do it with a stock pot as long as you got a little bit of a rack or something where you can get the jars up off the bottom of the canner or the stock pot, whatever it is. They can't be in contact with the bottom because of the heat from the burner. But if you got a little bit of a cookie rack or something, you can set into a stock pot, and it's got enough space where you can put a jar in it and cover it with 1 inch of water. You're good for a hot water bath. So anyway, when I got this all done, I'm going to show you what the finished product looks like. And this is kind of what my canner looks like when I'm ready to start my timer. I got just a real light boil going on in there, and that's kind of how I want to keep it for the next 15 minutes. And then after the 15 minutes elapses, we're just going to shut the burner off, let it cool down, and then we'll take our jars out of here and they'll seal. And here's the final product for the corn salsa. Kind of what it looks like when it's all done. The green peppers and the jalapenos lose a little bit of color when you can them, but they still look fairly good. Kind of show you here in the light. They got a real good color to them. And these are kind of all sealed up. Everything turned out real good for me. And now these are ready to put up. Don't have to do anything more with these. Just store them up with the rest of your stuff. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to show you guys this. I hope you learned something here, a little bit about canning and how simple it can be. I appreciate each and every one of my subscribers. I hope you guys are getting some information from my videos. If you got any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments. I'll try to answer them if I can. Anyway, this is Modern Refugee. I hope you guys have a great day.